Hello everybody, Fantasticairy here with another video. This video, I actually did work on that full illustration I was talking about. I wanted to share with you the process of that illustration. So here are my thumbnails. I did some planning beforehand in my other little notebook, but I wanted to kind of recreate a composition real fast in my head just so that I would remember. My brain works this way. I have to either write it down or draw it out to remember things. But yeah, here's my cute tiny little thumbnail, and then next to it a snail, and just kind of colors overall. I actually went in head first with this illustration, so I didn't do as much planning as I would have liked to, but that's okay. It's been a long time since I've done a full page painting, and I just wanted to go head first into it to see how it worked out. But now let's get on with the process. So in the beginning, I did start off with a little sketch. Lately, I've just been going in with just paint, but because it's a larger composition, I wanted to make sure I sketched out all my main shapes and the general perspective. So in this painting, there's going to be a giant skeleton overlooking some mushrooms and some snails. And the snails are going to be looking at the skeleton as well. That's why I've named this painting the Watchful. Here's the final sketch. It's just very rough, very loose. I didn't want to detail it too much. I also didn't want to have any heavy pencil marks, just because when I go over it with the paint, I want to make sure that I'm able to erase the pencil marks afterwards with a kneaded eraser. I've played that game before where I go back and erase pencil marks on a painting with just a white eraser, and if you're not careful, you can actually tear the paper. I was very surprised with the weight of the sketchbook paper. It's not the heaviest you can get, but it really held up well for this painting. Super satisfied with the sketchbook so far. Anywho, overall, I'm satisfied with the rough sketch. I'm just going to go into the painting now. Starting off with the wet on wet technique, I started with the sky, working left to right on the painting, just making sure all the parts that I want to blend together with the wet on wet technique are damp. At first I was going to go with a darker sky, but I decided I kind of wanted to go with a more rainbow sky, so I started with the blue. When I was filming this part, my phone stopped recording when I put in the other colors, so I only recorded the blue for this one. And then we have all the colors blended together. I really like how the yellow blended in with the blue. The blue looks like it's dripping down. I kind of just let the water and the paint do its thing as it dried. Going from a rainbow palette to more of an organic one, started with my sienna brown, and then for the larger areas, I make sure that I wet them first before blending in too much paint. The way I tackled the foreground, the background, and the midground elements is that I stuck with a simple color, the sienna brown, very light colors in the beginning, blocking in some green where I want the green to be, and letting it all mix together naturally. Before I forget, I'm using a number 6 round brush. This was a cheaper paintbrush I picked up a long time ago, and I'm actually pretty satisfied with how well they hold water. This here is the newest tool I've been using with my watercolor painting. It's the Sog Wonder Absorption Block, or sponge. In case anyone else is looking for a paint absorption sponge for watercolor painting in general, I would recommend these. They hold a lot of water and they work really well. I just wanted to compare using this versus what I typically use is paper towel that I'll try to use for as long as I can before throwing it out. So I just wanted to see if this was a little bit more economical. As I have my main colors blocked in, the lighter colors, I go back to the skeleton to add in some darker contrasted areas to define its characteristics a little bit more. I was going to go for a more worm's eye view of the skeleton, but decided a little bit more facing forward, so I cheated the perspective a little bit using that artistic privilege. Initially, I was a little bit worried about painting in the skeleton. I wanted to make sure that the skull itself was accurate. It's a main story point that I would love the audience's eye to be drawn to. Over my years of painting and drawing lots of skeletons and skulls, my confidence has grown to a point where I don't need to always look at the reference, which I still should because I'm not an expert. But it's nice to have that confidence to know which part goes where in anatomy. The chest part of the skeleton is definitely not the most accurate. I kept it more conceptual, as the main part was just the overall shape of the skeleton and the focus being more to the skull for the details. Again, just choosing as an artist where you want more detail and where you want less detail to draw the viewer's eye. And then moving back down to the foreground elements, starting to paint in the snails. The snail is the closest of them all, so I want to make sure he's a little bit darker in contrast. For the snails, I did have to use reference, just because I don't paint them as often. And I think I might dedicate a page to just snail shells, because they're really cool. You get a lot of very cool abstract design from the shapes and also the patterns on different shells. Very interesting, as well as the colors. Skipping ahead a little bit, and here we are applying the darker contrast areas. During this process, there was a lot of having to wait for the paint to dry and then coming back to it to add in the darker areas. I actually blended some purple with the sienna brown and added some black to it to create the darker tone of the shell. And then moving down back to the grass, kind of detailing in my little grassy details. I just wanted to create general shapes that gave the foreground grass, the midground grass moss, a little bit more defined detail. Working on individual snails as I go. This one was a little bit fun, creating the little swirls in the shells. Wasn't really particularly sure how to tackle the snails again. I should have planned that out a little bit more, but I did just go headfirst into this, and overall it was an experience and I'm happy with it. And again, you can see me using the purple tone. Tackling the larger mushroom, the perspective of this mushroom was interesting. I did cheat the perspective like I've said before, because I did want to have a mushroom that had the underside exposed a little bit. I didn't want to make this mushroom too dark, as it's further in the background, and as things get further away, they tend to have less saturation. And then just going in, using my 0.05 round brush to tackle some darker grassy areas. Alright, I'm going to leave you guys with the last 25 seconds. I'll see you at the end for the end result discussion, and I'll let you enjoy these clips with some music. I feel very satisfied with finally completing a full illustration. I plan to do these about once a month. My favorite parts of this painting would definitely be the skeleton in the sky with the moon and the stars. It adds such a magical feel to the story, and I like how all the snails are looking at this giant skeleton. And the color palette I found worked very well, going from the rainbow colors to the more organic colors flowing down into the page. Of course, you can always do better, and I could look at this painting and nitpick every little thing, but I'm not going to do that to myself because I'm going to move on, learn from it, and create another piece. Anywho, I could probably babble on about many things right now, but I think I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. You can actually find this illustration, this painting, on my imprint shop, link in the description below, as well as all my social medias. Videos are uploaded every Friday, so I hope to see you guys again next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye!